Um, I kind of take a long look at the legal profession, and I guess, and it shocks me to think that I've been on the Supreme Court for 10 years, but it is true. And so, in that sense of looking at the needs and interests and capabilities and prospects of the legal profession, I do have a kind of a long view, and although I'm sometimes averse to confessing my actual age, I'd like to take you back to some point in my young life. When I was in law school, I was a newspaper reporter for the Minneapolis Star. I worked at nights and on Saturday mornings and tried to get to class during the daytime because the University of Minnesota was a day school. They kept reminding me. And I was sent out, I was a general assignment reporter, and I was sent out to cover the first openly gay dance at the University of Minnesota. This was 1969. And it was being organized by a fellow who was a first-year law student. I was in a third-year law student. And a fellow named, I remember well, Jack Baker. And he founded an organization called FREE, Fight Repression of Erotic Expression. You know, they were not without their sense of humor. So I went out there and took a photographer with me, and I went around and talked to just about everybody that was there. It was, you know, pretty well attended, and wrote a story about it. And I guess it was memorable enough because lots of people spoke to me about it, including a couple of classmates. And this was before people were really out in the out sense. Wanted to know if I knew Jack Baker, and I said, yes, of course. They said, well, would you introduce me to him? So, you know, that was sort of the beginning of some networking on behalf of at least a few of my colleagues. But it was such a, in retrospect, it seems like such a strange time. Jack was very adamant about the rights of gays and lesbians, and he and his partner, Jim McConnell, applied for a marriage license. Now, mind you, this is about 1970 or 71. And you can look it up because the Minnesota Supreme Court actually has an opinion that says no marriage is between a man and a woman. I don't even think anybody in the Minnesota Supreme Court even remembers that case, but whatever. But then what they did was they were still exploring legal avenues. In the meantime, by the way, his partner had gotten a job as a librarian at the University of Minnesota, and then had been unhired when they found out that he was gay. And he sued them in federal court. And I was a law clerk then, and the judge down the hall from us ruled in his favor against the university and went to the 8th Circuit, reversed, very far-sighted if you're looking in the wrong direction opinion. So then they did this thing where where one of them adopted the other one because they were trying to make the point that people who have relationships should have equal rights. And so after they got their adoption papers, and one of them took the name of the other one, I think took the name Lynn McConnell and Jim McConnell. In Minnesota, you can apply for a marriage license with only one person going because there's no blood test or any of that junk. So, at least not back then. So one of them went to the county clerk down in Mankato, Minnesota, and applied for a marriage license for the two of them, and got the license, and then they found a Methodist minister up in Minneapolis who did the ceremony. And that was a matter of some brouhaha. And then when Jack graduated from law school, I learned there was some movement to keep him from becoming a member of the bar because he had defrauded a clerk of the court. And I'm happy to say that, and I was proud of my law school, that most of the faculty members, certainly all the ones that knew Jack Baker, wrote a letter to the Minnesota Supreme Court saying, look, this guy's fine. Don't do this. So he became a member of the bar. I don't know what happened to him in the intervening years, but it takes you back to think of the various kinds of things people have gone through and the themes that came up. It's also kind of an interesting milestone if you look at the way the recent history has developed. How long ago was it that the Vermont Supreme Court did their decision about saying that you had to give rights that were equivalent in some fashion? Was that 10 years ago? You can't even remember.
It was about,
I can't either. About 10 or 12 years ago. That was a wildly radical position 10 or 12 years ago. Now, it's mainstream, right? I mean, who knows? Pardon?
Not in Missouri, it's not mainstream.
No, but you might notice that when they did the anti-gay marriage measure that was on the ballot, that they carefully avoided anything that would have blocked that out.